Hello, guys. I'm Dr. Richard Hartness, and with me today is Phil Airson. What we're going to talk about today, Phil?
So I've been working with a lot of people recently, Rich, and they when men become disconnected from their partner, disconnected from the relationships, disconnected from themselves, they tend to go into what we would call the void, which is this space in between knowing who you are and knowing where you want to get to. It's a little bit of a lost zone. And when we're in there, we start experiencing something that we call the cycle of suffering, which are 5 stages that I see all men go through when they're in this place. And we'll talk about them a little bit here and just have a listen and see if you can recognize any of these stages and if you're there. And if you're there, we're going to kind of go through about how you can look at getting yourself out of it, right? So it's I don't want to say it's like um, it's this definite, foolproof, 100% thing. What I would say is every single person I've worked with has fallen into these categories at some point, or even I recognize when I go into the void sometimes, and creating an awareness around it might just spark you into thinking, "Oh crap, I'm in this phase. I need to get out of it." So it's that basically, just to help people recognize where they're at with it. So, are you okay if we talk about that today?
Yeah, absolutely. Something just occurred to me then as well is that sometimes, even if you're not finding yourself aligning to one of these five things, what it might do is just shine a light for you to say, actually, I'm not those things, but what is going on is. So if that comes up for you as well during all of this, that's great. It's
Yeah,
all about shining a light on what's actually going on more than it
absolutely,
has to fit into a category.
absolutely, mate. So, guys, the first one, and these can appear in any order, but what tends to be the first one is a state of emptiness. You are maybe like a big success in your business. You're just hitting goal after goal after goal. I work with a client recently who said he saw each like level as a game, and he would complete the game, move on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. But we're doing that, but we're still feeling emptiness. We're still feeling that it's been, some clients reported as numbness, and you were promised that, or maybe not promised, but you imagined that once you'd hit this goal, once you'd hit this target, once you hit this big X amount of money, you would feel a certain way, and you don't. It feels empty. It feels hollow, and it just doesn't fill you up how you thought it would. And that can lead to the second stage, which is anger. You've been promised this thing. You've been promised when you get here, even if it's promising yourself that you will feel happiness, you'll be appreciated, you'll feel whole, you'll feel good enough, but it hasn't happened. So you start feeling anger, and that might present itself like, blaming your wife, being snappy around her, or snapping at your children. And there's nothing worse than that. It's this horrible feeling, but you just feel so angry, or you blame your business or anyone but yourself. But it's kind of, yeah, it's always looking outwards when you get to anger. They're the first two stages. Rich, what do you think about those?
Yeah, I'm listening to that and kind of relating it to my own, what happened for me in my past, and definitely I worked very long and very hard to get to where I got to and becoming a doctor.
Yeah,
But when I got there, I definitely felt this feeling of emptiness of just like, well, is this it forever? Like this is what I now do, is
yeah,
it? And and I just wasn't enjoying it, but I felt like I was stuck there and
mm,
didn't have a choice because the life I'd built around me and the amount of time that I'd spent getting there and so on. So and
mm,
then ultimately, yeah, absolutely, that did then boil over into anger at times. Anger at myself and frustration and
mm,
yeah, to be fair, like sometimes being quite irritable with me patients and things like that, which is not ideal,
yeah,
but I know
absolutely.
that I did experience that at times. very hard to keep a lid on feelings like that. So um, yeah, absolutely, and absolutely recognise that, and then that did lead on to the next step that you're going to talk about now, which is shame, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Rich says, the third one is shame, and you felt so angry, and when you look at it, your life on paper seems really great, right? You've got the great job and the family. I even fell into my own trap of this. I was working with this Olympic athlete, right, and they had this amazing life and all this money and medals and success. And I always go to this person as an example because for some reason the medals elevate it for me. But I was looking on paper and I was like, man, this person has such an amazing life. What's happening? And you get told that you're so lucky. You've got the kids and the job and all of this. You must be loving your life, but you don't connect to that feeling, and you start feeling ashamed, and you'll look to start sedating yourself. You'll get home and you might just completely disconnect and zone out with a beer or a cocktail or drugs or porn or women or whatever it is. You look to sedate yourself to mask that feeling of shame, which just compounds it. It really, you'll only create more shame from that because you're now starting to disconnect more and more and more. And it's something I see over and over again with guys, like even work. I know I've listed those classic things, but how many people throw themselves into work because at work you get acknowledged for there's a result, there's a target rather, you hit your target and you get a little bit of that feel good factor. So things aren't good at home, I can get that at work, I'm just going to throw myself into work, which makes things worse at home. And yeah, that's where the sedation comes from. You'll be sedating yourself with something. But yeah, it's quite a big one. That have you got any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, just I think it's important to think about where that's showing up for you, and how that's presenting in your own life, in your own situation. It could be that I'm just thinking about this is like, although it's kind of like a cycle, sometimes the shame aspect could be the thing that you recognize first of all, and then you
Yeah.
look backwards at the other ones. Like where's this coming
Yeah,
from? Yeah,
for sure, for sure. I know that for me, I used to sedate myself a lot with alcohol and drugs and women. That they were my three things, and I was trying to fill this void within myself. I say this is when we're in the void. I'm trying to plug this gap, but this gap is just a bottomless gap. You're just throwing things into it and thinking I'll feel better, but nothing quite gets there, right? And it's something we see all too often, which can often lead to the fourth, and that is loneliness. You found yourself now in a place with no one to talk to. You can't tell your wife or your partner that you're unhappy because, that's not what men do. And also, you have the shame around it of look, I've been unhappy and I've been sedating myself with whatever it is. It's not something that's easy to admit to, and you can't tell your mates or your partner or anyone about it because on paper everyone sees you have this amazing life. So who are you to go and tell them about all of these problems you're having with it, right? It could become a very lonely, very isolating place. And it's that old adage of being surrounded by people but still feeling really lonely, you know? And it can be a real tough spot to be in, right?
yeah, absolutely. It just sort of compounds it, doesn't it? You, you feel more alone and more shameful, and it just kind of, if you're not careful, it kind of gets into a bit of a spiral.
Yeah, absolutely. And what happens in that, Rich, is it starts exacerbating the other feelings, right? It starts ramping them up even more.
Mm.
And I know we call this a cycle, but it's all interconnected. The loneliness can lead to more sedation, more anger, more uncertainty, more emptiness. All of that. It builds and builds and builds,
Yeah.
and which often leads to the fifth one, which is uncertainty. And you'll start to question whether your relationship is the right one for you, and This is where things like affairs might happen because, you know, you're so disconnected at this point, and you're looking to fill that void. You're looking to get that recognition. You're looking to look outside of yourself for the answer. And
Yeah.
you know, you might have even lent so far into business that your business is essentially your new wife, and it's getting all of your attention and love and care, and because you know it doesn't have the same needs, I suppose, and you might question whether even your business is the right thing, and you start to resent it because it's took you away from your family, even though it hasn't really. It's you that's done it, and everyone starts to suffer, and the cycle continues because you lean more into business, you start feeling empty again. We'll go round and round and round, and it can be a place that some people live. You know, some people get stuck there, but you don't have to be stuck, right?
No, absolutely, absolutely. Um, and I was just thinking as well, like because of the sort of mental state that you get into when we talk about getting to this point of uncertainty, that it can be that we start to tell ourselves stories of, well, I'm not worth enough. There's no way my wife's ever going to be able to like me or trust me again, or this relationship's just too far gone now. Or the
Yeah.
stories that we tell ourselves because we're not in a good place and we're not feeling good about ourselves or the relationship. It becomes a convenient way to kind of think, right, okay, well that's gone now. That's no good. I'm going to start again over here. But all you're doing is you're just bringing your issues and your problems along with you to a new
Absolutely.
relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, if you relate to any of this, I'm going to speak some hard truths and give you a little bit of a challenge on this. If this is where you are, you can do one of two things. The first one is you can lower your standards and you can say, this is where I am at. This is how I'm going to live. I accept that and get on with it. What you cannot do is stay in the void and kick yourself for being there and not being somewhere else and thinking, I should be this, I should be that, I should be here, there, and everywhere when you're not. And you're not doing anything about it. And you just stay and you kick and you beat yourself up and you're going to end up feeling worse. You have a choice. You can lower your standards and be like, this is how my life is, and I accept that, and that's cool. And there's no judgment in that. It is the easiest way to go. And the other thing that you can do is you can take massive action and make a change. And you can commit to joining a program, getting a coach, doing some learning, doing some education, taking responsibility for pulling yourself out of that place and moving forward. And that's the real truth of it. There is no value in sitting in the middle and thinking one day I will, or one day I should, or what have you. That kicking yourself is just going to make things worse. Lower your standards or take action. They are the options for you, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and recognize that you don't maybe it's the first step for you might be initially of lowering your standards, right? But then you might one day feel like you've got the strength to really up your game and start challenging yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was hesitant to use that term, Rich, but I couldn't think of another way to do it. But I think that people you can live in the void thinking, oh well, my standards are higher. I should connect with my wife. I should have this work life balance. I should be healthy, whatever it is. But aren't willing to commit to it, commit to that standard and what it takes to get to there, and invest their time and their money and their energy in solving the problem. So they just sit there and they'll kick themselves for, I am here, I should be here, why am I not here? Kick, 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 kick. And yeah, when I say lower the standards, I know that sounds harsh, and but there's really no judgment in that.
Yep.
It's more, it's just factual, right? It's. I completely get why you would do that if you're not ready to step out into there. Well, I guess the message is you can't stay in that middle bit. Well,
No.
you
Yeah.
can, but don't. It's not a good place to be, right?
Well, as you say, it's the cycle of suffering. You will feel bad being in that place. It's not a nice place to be. So
Yeah.
it's and that bit about, lowering the standards or however you want to put it is just kind
Mm,
of it's really just getting in touch with reality, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's like
100%.
accepting, yeah, I'd like to be that guy, but I'm not ready
Hmm.
for that right now. But what I can do is just say, okay, things aren't great. This is who I
Yep,
am. But I'm going to stop feeling bad about who I am.
absolutely. And guys, if you are ready to take action, jump on a call with me or Rich. We can help you through that. I'm biased. I think what we offer is unparalleled. But there is loads of stuff out there. There are groups. There's coaches. There's teachers. There's trainers. But take actions. Do something different. You're not going to create anything new from the same place you've always been. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't work like that. Yeah, that's all I've got to say on it, Rich. To be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I'd agree. And just, along those same lines, just whatever it is you're going to do off the back of this video, for goodness sakes, do something. Take
Yeah,
action on this video.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, Guys, that's it. Really, it's a short one, but yeah, I hope it's valuable. If you know anyone who isn't you, who might be in the cycle, then please send this video to them, and hopefully it'll help out. But take
Absolutely.
care, and we'll talk to you some other time.